Okay, so now we made it to another section, which is the next section in this chapter. We're going to be talking about passing functions as arguments. This is another concept that we're introducing to you. Remember, we're making new layers. We've already laid the foundations. Now we're adding all the frames and everything to this particular house that we're building. And so this is another piece of the frame that we're adding, which we're going to be talking about passing functions as arguments. Now, we're going to have two videos in this section because I kind of want to introduce another concept to you in this particular section. So it may take a little while for me to explain it. If you are new to this channel and you would like to follow along with the curriculum, all you have to do is click the link in the description. It's a free curriculum. You don't have to register to join, but it will be appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel and also like the videos and comment on the videos to help with the algorithm. So without further ado, let's get into the curriculum. Passing functions as arguments. Functions are objects. Remember, everything in JavaScript is an object except for primitive data types, and therefore can be passed around just like other values. This means a function can be passed to another function as an argument. This allows the function being called to use the function arguments to carry out its action. This turns out to be extremely useful. Examples best illustrate this technique. So let's look at a couple now. We're going to talk about the setTimeout function. Now, another concept here that I want to introduce to you because we're talking about the setTimeout function. And we're going to go a little bit deeper in what it does, but I want to introduce to you or plant a seed about synchronous and asynchronous. And that's important to know because you're going to need to understand this concept when we get into creating our programs, creating our software. You need to understand how synchronous and asynchronous works. So I'm going to give you a resource. And the resource I'm going to give you is in MDM, and it talks about asynchronous in JavaScript. I'm going to put this link in the description, and I want you to go ahead and bookmark this. Take some time and kind of read over this to get an understanding what it does and what it means. And also another resource that I want to introduce or that you need to bookmark that I kind of introduced to you, but I want you to bookmark it because you need to read up on it and what's a pure function. We talked about pure functions, impure functions, which are functions that have side effects. That's what an impure function is. So I want you to kind of read this little article. Like I said, you don't have to read it all right now, but at least bookmark it because it's something that you can use later on. And the reason for that is because setTimeout is a function that works asynchronously, meaning that there's nothing blocking your code from running. And the reason why we may want to use an asynchronous type of function later on is because we may be doing what? We may be fetching data, and sometimes data is a lot coming in and it can block your program and it makes a user experience a bad experience. So the reason why we want an asynchronous type of a function is because we want to be able to continue to run the program while the data is loading. And a setTimeout function kind of hits on that. So it's important that you kind of understand how this works. So here, the built-in function setTimeout allows a programmer to pass a function specifying that it should be called at a later point in time. Its basic syntax is this: setTimeout, and we're passing it a function, and we're passing a delay in milliseconds. So here's an example. Suppose we want to log a message with a 5-second delay. Since 5 seconds is 5,000 milliseconds, 1 second equals 1,000 milliseconds. We can do so like this. This is what it looks like. This is the syntax. But now there's something that I want to share with you. I'm going to go and inspect this. I'm going to run this inside of the console, and I'm going to go to the console and I'm going to copy this to the clipboard, come in here, right click and paste it in. Now what I want you to notice here, when I run this is supposed to take 5 seconds before we see this message. So let's run it. Count 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. Boom. It just popped in. So there's a delay. Like I said, you may want this to delay because of data that you're fetching, and it may be a lot of data. So you don't want your program to stop. So what asynchronous means is that, let's say A, B, C, and D, that's synchronous. It's going in a sequence. It's going in an order. B cannot happen until after A has run. So therefore, in order for B to happen, A has to run first. So A blocks B from happening until after A runs. So in order to get to D, I have to go A, B, C, D. That's synchronous. Synchronous means blocking. Asynchronous means I can go to D without waiting on B and C to happen in order for me to get to D. That's what asynchronous means. And that's what we're meaning when we are using something like a set timeout. It's to set a delay so that it has time for the data to load, so I do not, or the user doesn't have to wait for that to happen. It can continue to use the program. So I just want to introduce that to you because this is a concept that you're going to use later. So I'm planting the seed now. So try it. So we did that. Is the call to print message actually delayed? It was. Don't just take our word for it. Try it for yourself. Play with our example and change the delay. So go ahead and change the delay. Make it 10,000 millisecond. Make it 1,000 millisecond. Now also understand every browser is different and it's different on everybody's machine. Your machine may take you 7 seconds, where mine takes 5. Your browser may say 5 seconds, but it may have an extra second delay. So don't get caught up on counting and it didn't actually go 5 seconds. It may have something to do with your browser. It may be Firefox, it may be Chrome, or it just may be your machine, the reason why it may take a little longer. Now the function print message is passed to set timeout, the same as any other argument. A common twist often used by JavaScript programmers is to use an anonymous function as an argument. Here's an example. This program has the same behavior as the one above. Instead of creating a name function, passing it to set timeout, it creates an anonymous function with set timeout arguments listed. So instead of just passing in a variable like up here, we're just passing in the name function as one of the arguments. We just wrote the whole entire function out. Sometimes this is necessary. Sometimes it's better just putting it into a variable, which you can put an anonymous function in a variable and we can just call that anonymous function. So explains like this looks odd at first, or examples like this looks odd at first. However, they become easier to read over time. Additionally, code that passes anonymous function is ubiquitous in JavaScript. So that's the end of this part of the section. This is the first half of this section. We'll finish up in the second half because I want to kind of take my time to go over the map method. So again, you got to do this a lot. It took me a while to understand, to get my head around it, but the more I play with it, the more it became familiar. And as it becomes familiar, you'll be able to see the small nuances. So remember, the more you do, the more you improve. See you as we finish up in the next video.